So hi Claire.
Hi, how are you?
Before starting with anything, I'd like to say happy belated birthday.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it
That
was
day I
lovely.
could wish you because like it was everyone was there and you were like, I don't celebrate. So I was like, should I wish her? Should I not?
Yeah, no, it's you know, I think after age 30 you're like
So how was your birthday?
It was lovely. So I ended up working on my birthday, but the next day we went hiking on I think Shiva Puri Peak. Yeah, did a 18-kilometer hike. So still a little sore, but really beautiful. The skies were clear. Got to see the mountains in the distance. It was gorgeous. Yeah, great way to celebrate a birthday.
Is it your first time that you're celebrating your birthday outside USA or?
No.
Oh.
So I work in India half the year, and I often try to skip the US winter. It's kind of dark and cold.
Oh.
So I'm normally actually abroad for my birthday.
No, so I actually assumed that you liked the cold.
So I don't, it's not the cold, it's the dark.
Oh, okay.
So the sun sets right now around 4:30. And then the sun rises at like 8 a.m. So you go to work in the dark and you come back in the dark.
Oh.
So it's kind of depressing.
Oh.
Yeah, so yeah, cold is fine. The dark, don't
Dark
like
is
the
fine.
dark so much, yeah.
Okay. So how is Nepal treating you?
I love Nepal. So like I mentioned, I'm in Nepal. I'm in India half the year. So I think your food's a bit better. Hope I don't offend anyone. But love dal bhat. I think the food itself is a bit healthier maybe than India, a little less oily. So I mean, actually eating dal bhat every single meal. Not sick of it yet. And the people are so kind and friendly. We've been turned around a few times and people are so nice. They may not speak English, but they'll be like, oh, that way. So it's been really nice, actually. Yeah.
I mean, it's an inside joke of ours, but have you met any Vikash?
Yeah, so have only met one Vikas. I think hopefully there's only one Vikas. I remember I should have realized something was wrong when he couldn't open his own trunk to his own car, and I had to show him how. Like that's probably the first sign he wasn't the best driver.
I mean, I hope we all hope you don't take that.
Well, no. Now there's now I have a range of drivers. So far we have Vikas, we have I think Mandal, and then there was Ravi today. So all sorts of drivers. But yeah, no, I think Vikas is probably an exception as a person.
I hope that now for the rest of your stay, you don't have to face any Vikash.
Yeah,
and have a lovely time.
I mean,
see our
if there's a
culture.
meeting I don't want to go to, I'll call him up. Yeah. There's a use for everything.
Yeah. So, like since you mentioned Shivapuri, and you mentioned that there's clear sky, the people are nice, food is nice. So, like you mentioned, you eat a lot of dal bhat. So, is it like, have you had dal bhat in the US or is it your first time having it?
So I've been to Nepal before and I also had dal bhat every meal.
Oh.
I don't think Nepali food is actually easily available in the US.
Oh.
Yeah. Even the Indian food now I can't really eat in the US. It tastes a little weird. Too much yogurt. It's strange.
I think like you have the local taste.
I know how it's supposed to taste now,
Exactly.
and so I get used to it and I go home and I just don't want it. So we'll get all this Indian food in our office. And I realize I'm now like the Indians in the office going, I don't know if I can eat that. Yeah.
I also noticed, I stalked you a little.
Oh, lovely.
And I also noticed that there was a description written about you where it mentioned that you were a homebody. You like tomato soup.
I don't know where you found that, but that's right. I do love tomato soup. It's my favorite. I eat tomato soup as much as possible. Oh, that's fun. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So since you're a homebody and you like cozy, but you also like nature since you go to a lot of
I probably have, that's a great question. Two sides of me. I'm huge into hiking. I actually live a nomadic lifestyle. So ever since COVID, I move every 1 to 3 months, whether in the US, abroad, etc. Love exploring the world, but then I also like video games. I like reading. I like having my own time to myself. I'm actually a bit introverted, so I like my recovery time as well. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So I also saw that you like hiking, yoga, and there was something called yoga hiking. So is it like something that you don't know about?
No, I think it's bad grammar. I think there's a comma missing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, is there a trend?
No,
going around,
I don't know where you. Ooh, yeah, that's probably a typo somewhere. No,
Oh, okay.
I love hiking. I like yoga. I'm willing to do both together. but not yet.
So you're quite athletic as well?
I'd like to think so. That's a good thought.
Because you go on a lot of hikes. You mentioned that you like hiking. So
yeah, I am very active. Not just because I think it's healthy, but I've realized I'm the most centered and the best version of myself if I'm pretty active. And so, I feel the best if I'm getting out and seeing nature a bunch. And so I try to prioritize that.
So has that like developed over the years, or were you like athletic and like in that thought process from a very young age?
My parents are both pretty active, and so they took us hiking on vacations. I played sports my whole life, played field hockey, and so have definitely always sort of been active. But during college, I went to school called Swarthmore. They have this wonderful woods next to where I was living, and so I got used to running in the woods and realized just how much better I felt. And so wherever I've lived, I've tried to always either be near a park, near some beach, or just somewhere in nature where I can quickly go escape for a little bit. And that allows me to kind of just center myself and feel at peace. If I'm away from it, I'm not as active. Like I just won't go. So it's been just really great. In Washington, D.C., there's actually something called Rock Creek Park. And so there's a huge trail system, so you can kind of do whatever. So Washington, D.C. is also pretty cool.
So since we're talking about like how were you as a student?
So I was a straight A student. I was
overachiever.
What?
Overachiever.
I would probably described as an overachiever. I've always liked school. I'm a bit lazy as a studier. I've been lucky with have a pretty good memory overall. And so always liked learning. And then in college, I realized I'd not developed good study habits, so I had to kind of catch up a little bit and figure out actually how to study and how to learn a little bit better. And then those have been really good habits I've kept with me through the rest of my career. But definitely was a bit of a lazy student, and then had to learn how to really do some critical thinking in school, because in college, it's a little bit less about memorization and a lot more about, do you understand a concept and how do you apply it to other things? So it's been a journey.
We see that, especially like in the Western world, the education system is quite different from ours.
Yes.
Because there, as per our knowledge, it's more practical rather than like theoretical. So is that how it is? Like since you've traveled the world now, you've seen the education system like in most part of the world. So do you think that US education system is more like advanced or more practical than, for example, the education system in Nepal?
I think that's a hard question to answer with the like sort of saying advanced. I would definitely say it prioritizes critical thinking. So even in high school and younger, you sort of learn things, but for the tests, it's not about memorizing and giving information typically. It's sort of like, how do you apply this to a new situation? So if you don't really learn critical thinking, you can't pass those tests, because it's how well did you learn something and how do you apply it to other things or transferable skills. Something in the work world in the United States is we really do prioritize skills, not degrees. And so yes, a degree is important, but you have to kind of show you develop certain skills in order to get hired. So I think one of the many things that are different are definitely just teaching critical thinking. Memorization doesn't really help, especially in college and absolutely in a master's program. And then I think the other part is that, how does that degree transfer to the work world? The big thing there is, what skills did you develop along the way? A degree often isn't enough. You have to show you learned something useful that an employer can use.
And since you mentioned that you were an introvert, and still are, but you need to work with other people, you need to network. So how did you like build that skill? Because networking, especially for students, is kind of difficult, especially in our context. We don't like to, if we are in a classroom setting, if a teacher asks who would like to answer this question, you will really see like students raising their hands because they don't want to be that forefront to answering and like stuff like that. And when you are put in a room full of strangers, there's hardly any like first goers who are like, okay, I'm Jasmine. So how did you, since you're an introvert and you also have to network with a lot of people, how did you develop that skill?
I think that's a great question. So I was definitely known as a really shy, nerdy person. I think when people who knew me in high school meet me now, they're like, what happened to you? And so part of it was I had a part-time job after college. My degree's in psychology. And so I was working as a behavior analyst. And I picked up a part-time job at a restaurant. And just for a little extra cash. And being forced to talk to a bunch of strangers all the time actually was a huge game changer for me, because a lot of the nervousness comes from just overanalyzing the whole thing. And you realize no one's really paying that much attention to you. If you do something weird, they'll remember it for maybe a minute.
Exactly.
And so when in that restaurant situation, I realized just how low stakes communication is. And you eventually get comfortable. And so practice. And then for me, it was realizing that the worst thing that happened is there really isn't a worst thing. Like, what's going to happen? Like, you embarrass yourself a little bit and you both laugh. So I really encourage people who are maybe struggling with the same thing I did to figure out how to get more low stakes exposure to people. Is it a club you can join? Is it, maybe joining a church or another community, doing sports or something where you're forced to talk to a variety of people just to get your nerves down? And I promise you'll eventually get good at talking to people. You may still need personal time to recover that energy, but at least you won't feel bad. And I think that self-assurance eventually comes across, that you're not afraid. And if you've ever been near someone who's really anxious, you can often feel that a bit, even if you're trying to hide it. And so just trying to learn how to be self-assured on who you are takes practice. And I think with a little bit of exposure, most people can get there. Yeah.
I think since specifically in the US, students start young to work.
Yeah.
In our culture, it's around like mid-20s to late 20s.
Oh, very different. Yeah.
So it's quite different. So since you started young, working, you had the exposure, so you were able to break out of that
very much
introvert self.
Yeah.
But I think since students here, there are very handful of students who start working early, but majority of the parents are actually the ones who discourage the kids to work early. In majority of the families, not all families, in Nepali families, but majority of the families, because they want their children to be straight A's, do good in studies.
To kind of focus on the studies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's actually a parental thing where they don't want the child to, they want to pamper them. They don't want to burden them with money problem, stuff like that. So we start quite late because of that. I think the level of networking skills that you will see in Nepali students might not be as good as you see elsewhere.
Interesting.
So I think that's quite interesting that you started working young, and we get to hear that quite often as well. Like Western world, they start young. That's why by the time they reach our age, like 28, 29, they're doing quite well.
Yeah.
But suddenly, when we go to a new region or country and we see them, and we're like, we're so late.
Yeah, actually,
we're so late, and that actually creates more problems for us because we start comparing, and then we're more anxious. And we don't know what to do.
And it's a little bit of a cycle.
Yeah. So we don't know what to do, and then I think we get stuck in that cycle. So I think that's something.
It's actually a pretty big difference.
Yes, exactly.
Something that may be a difference, maybe it's not, maybe you can tell me more about it, is that we all want to be, the US has a culture around sort of being on your own, being independent, and we all prioritize this independence. And so children often want to do as much as possible I want to be on my own. And part of that, it's not like my parents asked me to work early. I wanted a job.
Yes.
I wanted to be an adult. I wanted to be independent. And so part of that is was me getting a job. So it's not like our parents are forcing us to get a job, nor do they make us move out at 18. We want to. So, it sounds like there's a little bit more of a keep them close.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes.
Or yeah.
That's kind of right. And as I mentioned earlier, they want us to study, focus on studying first, and then progress on to make our careers. I think there's a shift now.
Okay.
Parents are being more diligent with their children starting young, but there's still a majority of the population where parents don't want their children to start working young, and they want them to study first excel, not just study, but excel in their studies.
Be number one.
Yes, and then think about career and stuff.
Wow. Yeah, no, it's fascinating.
So since you started young, were you like exposed to Empower in that journey of yours? Like, how did you come about knowing about Empower?
So MPOWER started 11 years ago. So during my undergrad, it didn't exist basically. But I was a self-taught marketer. I eventually moved from, a human behavior psychology-based field to using that information for marketing. And I realized that I needed to go to graduate school to sort of rise into sort of a manager. I knew a lot about marketing, but not a lot about business. So during my MBA, I think in the first few months, they really encourage you to start looking for internships early because they're competitive. So me and a bunch of my Indian friends all hop in my car and we go to this startup career fair. And I was targeting a few companies. I talked to them and just didn't like who I spoke with, didn't feel anything. And so, I'm like, whatever, I'm just going to have some fun. So I'm going around joking with people. I laugh. And I come across MPOWER at a booth. And I spoke to one woman and she went to the same undergrad as me. We started talking about that. And this other woman who later became my colleague, she was the sort of a part-time marketer. I gave her my resume. She said she liked talking to me. And later I found out she called me back because she liked my laugh. So
it's actually quite contagious.
Oh, that's good.
I think you give off that very jolly kind of a person. The first time I met you, you were very friendly, very jolly. So I think that's the energy that you give.
That's lovely to hear. Thank you. Yeah. So advice I give to international students, a little bit of a non sequitur, is sort of what is your special sauce? Don't try to hide it. You're trying to sort of be yourself, and then you're not trying to attract every employer. You're trying to attract the right employer. So, laughing at MPOWER, we joke around a lot, and so that just worked for me. But when I was at this career fair and meeting MPOWER, I was just so impressed by the mission. During my undergrad, and even in my master's degree, I met a lot of international students, and it was really stressful for them to pay for school. I actually had a friend in my undergrad who went back to her home country because she couldn't afford the rest of the schooling. Something had happened with her family, and there was a money issue. So it was really sort of personal to me where students, these amazing, brilliant people, sort of didn't have the same opportunities as me because they were having funding challenges. And so when I saw MPOWER had a reasonable solution, they're a public benefit corporation, so they sort of care about helping people, I was just sucked in. And so I wanted a summer internship, and they said, can you start now? So I started as an intern with them in January 2017, and so I'm slowly approaching 9 years. I never left.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So since we're talking about MPOWER now, you mentioned it's been 9 years?
In January, it'll be 9 years. I'm like a month and a half away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So have you had opportunities of speaking to like students around the world as well, and what sort of stories have like left with you, like inspiring stories, or some students that might have like touched your heart, or their stories? Are there any like special stories like as such?
So I think the stories that I remember are often from MPOWER employees, actually, and there's definitely MPOWER customers too I could talk about, but the employees who work at MPOWER, so I do most of my hiring in India. And almost every employee on my team has mentioned, I wanted to study abroad. I couldn't because I didn't have the money. And I want to work at this company because I want people like me 10 years in the past to be able to do this wonderful opportunity. And so for our customers, it's the same thing. A lot of times they don't believe that we're a real product initially. So
it's too good to be true.
That's actually what we hear. So the most common thing we hear is, are you a scam?
Oh.
And it's like, nope, can't, I don't think so. And so a lot of our students said when they first see us at an event or an ad or whatever, they go, that's a scam. And then they check us out, they talk to us, they realize that we're real. And so for some of our students right now, I think the touching stories are, I didn't believe I could do it. I see other people doing it, but they're crazy exceptional. I didn't believe this was an opportunity for me. And for them, there are sort of things like, now my family back home, I'm sending them money and they're able to afford a better life for my brothers and sisters that I didn't have. Or I'm starting a company that's going to go back and help Africa, where I'm from. Or I'm currently in Silicon Valley working as a tech entrepreneur. I never thought that this dream is something I personally could do. And so I almost tear up sometimes when I think about sort of how beautiful is it to help people do things they didn't think were possible for them. And so I think that's probably the best part of working about MPOWER is you're changing the reality of so many people just because they never dreamed of something so great for themselves.
Yeah. So how did the USP of MPOWER come about? Like no cosigner, no collateral. Like how did that come about? Is it a problem in other countries as well? Because that is quite a problem here in Nepal. In Nepal, usually traditional banks are the ones who like lend loans to international students, prospect international students, and that's quite a hassle on its own. So is that a problem abroad as well? Because since it's a attractive USP, no collateral, no cosigner. So is it a problem abroad as well for other students?
Yeah. So I'll tell you a little bit about our co-founders. We had two co-founders that both separately struggled to pay for their education. They were both international from different countries and had to work odd jobs to pay for school because no one would give them money. So they first realized in the United States to get a loan from someone, you need a US-based cosigner, it might be a guarantor here, might be the term. And so, no one would lend to them. And then in other countries, it depends on the country. For some countries, the issue is lack of cosigner. And in some countries, the issue is the lack of collateral.
So these two points are the main reasons why international students struggle to get
Absolutely.
into their dream
And
locations.
I would say the big part of it is that in most home countries, you either need your parent to co-sign your loan, and sometimes they're not willing, they're not around, or they don't have the credit to help you. And then in some countries like Nepal, it really is the collateral. And so the reason the USPs exist is because we've always been no cosigner, no collateral. It's not like we had them and then removed them. Our co-founders wanted a product that actually makes sense for international students because both of them suffered this. So they really need to make sure that no one else would have a gap like this as well. So, India is similar to Nepal in some ways, and no collateral is actually a big deal there as well. For them, the cosigner aspect is actually a little bit bigger than I think Nepal is. So it matters around the world, but it sort of depends on the country. Everyone's just a little bit different in terms of what the gaps are.
Oh, okay. So specifically in Nepal, it's usually said when a child wants to go abroad, it takes a whole village to send that person abroad because there's so many documentation, so many things to arrange even before applying. So usually the family members' involvement is very high here.
Oh, wow.
Even for the smallest decisions, family is something that is often included. So when someone decides to go abroad, for sure there will be family involved as well here. So when we talk about, for example, if I go and talk to my parents about MPOWER, I think there will be this hesitation with our parents because they're so used to the traditional, banks loaning and then sending children off to abroad that they might not understand what MPOWER really does. And as you mentioned earlier,
this is a scam.
It's a scam. How is this even possible?
Yeah.
And I think making parents understand what MPOWER is and what it does and how easy it is might be quite challenging. Is it same around the world as well? Are parents involved in the decision making, and how difficult has it been for MPOWER to convince, let's say, the parents of the students we're not a scam, we're actually genuine?
Yeah, so it really depends on the country. In some countries, parents really aren't a big decision maker, so it hasn't been such a problem.
No.
For example, in Africa, the average age of study abroad is actually a little bit later than Nepal and the rest of South Asia. And so they're typically already established maybe with their own family in Africa when they study abroad. So culturally, I'd say for the rest of the world, it kind of just depends on the country itself. Everyone's a little bit different. In India, it has been a little bit of a challenge trying to convince people that we're not a scam, we're real. And so some of the things we've done, specifically in India, that may or may not work in Nepal, you can tell me, is working with student ambassadors, actually.
Oh, okay.
So students that used MPOWER can talk to more students, make videos for us, kind of show the parents that we're real. And also, if we can get parents on a video, that's even more impactful, saying, I think there's one parent in India, actually, who we consider an ambassador, because they're like, oh my God, I can send my child abroad.
Exactly.
And in fact, I can send multiple kids abroad. And, normally a house can only be used for one loan. You can't use it on multiple. And so it sort of allows them to send multiple children without worrying about the house they live in, etc. And so in India, these stories have been really effective, actually. So either hearing from students or from parents like themselves has been a really great boon to MPOWER. Otherwise, sort of convincing people we're not a scam has been, I'd say, just a giant challenge. It's kind of funny to me that our biggest USP can also be considered a weakness, because people are like, how is this possible even?
Again, too good to be true.
Yeah,
It's something I think like gets thrown about a lot.
Quite a lot, yeah.
So since we're talking about like trust and debt, loans, etc., I think it's also interesting to mention that parents don't want their kids to have loans on their heads, sort of. So I think there's this gap where parents don't understand that their children are getting the loans based off of their talent, their ambition, their like future goals rather than their past. So making parents convinced that it's not a huge burden to the student might be difficult.
Okay.
But I think you can elaborate on how the student can pay off the loan, because since loan is involved, obviously they'll have to pay it off. So
of course.
I think parents might be curious about, if there's no collateral, if there's no cosigner, how is my kid going to pay it off?
Yeah.
Because in our mentality, what we think is, since we go abroad as students, we won't be able to work as much as people who go on, let's say, working visas. Limited time is there. So if my child takes, let's say, 1 crore NPR loan from MPOWER, how will he or she be able to pay it off? Will we be responsible to pay it off? Or if he or she is not able to pay it off at all, like what will happen? So can we like elaborate more on that, just so that our audience knows
a little bit more.
What it's about.
So it's interesting that no collateral, no cosigner makes them uncomfortable, because it's a very low trust system. If the collateral and cosigner, you're basically assuming the student won't pay. And at MPOWER, we assume the students will pay. That's why we have an algorithm that tells us how much money someone could actually pay off. And what we're looking at is, what is this person's career path? And so I'll be honest, there are some career paths that MPOWER will not fund because we know they won't be able to pay us back. For example, if you wanted to be an art history teacher in the US, you would not be able to pay back a loan with MPOWER. There's just no way. But if you want to be a software engineer, you make a lot of money actually in the US or Canada as a software engineer. And so, the ROI for that is really high. The average time to pay us back is 5 years, and the whole repayment period is actually 10 years. So over half of our students are paying us back twice as fast as they need to, because MPOWER only funds careers in schools that have great outcomes for international students. So to parents, I'd say that, as long as your child is doing good research on the type of career that makes sense, the ROI is quite good. And so making sure students look a little bit into what the job outcome would be of their degree is really important. But so far, our students pay us back because we have the data to show what career path and what schools make sense. That's where we fund. Those students are really successful, and they pay us back because often they want to work in the country. So just to summarize, we have a lot of data that shows us what careers make sense for international students and what degrees make sense, and that's exactly what we fund. If it's a program or degree that we have bad data for, you won't see it on our list. And so that's actually how we're able to do this. It's a very data-driven approach, and it's based on practicality, quite honestly.
has there like been instances where the student is not able to pay back?
It does happen. Sometimes, one situation I'm thinking of where a parent died. If parents want to pay off the loan, nothing is stopping them, by the way. It's just there's no legal documentation saying so. We do have some parents that actually want to pay MPOWER, and they can. Truly nothing is stopping them, but there's no obligation. So the one student I'm thinking of had to go back home to take care of the rest of the family because unfortunately the parents weren't there. And all they need to do is reach out to MPOWER and talk to us, and we can come up with a hardship plan that makes sense for the student if they do have an adverse event where there is some challenges here. So it doesn't really help MPOWER to force students to pay back when those situations happen. So we like to say that we're a compassionate company. It's one of our values. Ultimately, though, it's somewhat rare that this happens because we fund really ambitious, career-driven, talented students. You didn't put all the work to get an amazing bachelor's, maybe some work experience, and then the visa process and study abroad. You didn't put all that work in to fail. So I think because of this factor, the students we work with, they do pay us back because the type of person we fund, nothing's going to stop them, and they don't let anything stop them.
Exactly. Yeah. So have there been students who were excellent academic-wise, but suddenly when it came to career, they didn't perform as expected, as per the algorithm? So have there been instances like that?
So that's a great question. There are some skills that you need to get a job in the US or Canada that even during my MBA, or 1/3 of my class was international, I found, that what I'm thinking of is sort of a career fair I went to. One of my classmates sort of went up to an employer and said, "Hey, I'm so-and-so. Do you have a job for me?" And it's just like asking someone for money. It's like, they're not going to give a stranger money. You're not going to give a stranger random things. So that's not the right approach. But so that does happen. And so MPOWER started many years ago something we call our Path to Success program. And what this does is there's a variety of services we offer to sort of help students be successful in their career or visa process, etc. We recently expanded this program to something we call the Career Accelerator, because when talking to students, we realized that this is a big stressor for them. You don't go abroad to not get a job. So what we do is we have a boot camp we offer for students. So before they even land in the US or Canada, they're trained on how to get an on-campus job, how to get an internship. So that way, at least from day one in the US, they're really equipped to sort of get started immediately. Then while they're in school, we have something called F1 Hire. They're a partner. This allows students to sort of look at different jobs and see where international students are getting hired, and also see where what companies sponsor international students. So this way, they're not applying for jobs that don't make sense for international students. It saves them a bunch of time. Last is we've started a program or a course where it's optional. No one has to take it, but MPOWER customers every other month join a workshop with us. And they can practice skills or build skills they may not have with our career experts that we bring in. For example, if you are insecure in your resume, you're insecure in your LinkedIn, or you think networking is your challenge. Recently, we did an event just on networking and how to network to get a job. But whatever sort of skill gaps we see international students struggling with, we'll typically offer a class on that to make sure that they're getting ahead. Most master's programs have on-campus training dedicated for international students. This is designed to be a supplement if anyone feels they need a little bit extra in order to build these skills they need to get a job.
So I think, according to the description you provided about MPOWER, we can clearly distinguish that the traditional banks, especially in Nepal, they're more colder because they're more transaction relationship only with students. They maintain that relationship. But I see that with MPOWER, it's more like MPOWER is my partner.
Yeah. Oh, I love the way you said that. Yes. So we do see ourselves as the partner and the student. I think with a traditional lender, even in the US, once the lender sends the money to the person or the school, that's it. We're done. That's all. That's all we're doing. But, I can make this a business decision too. If a student can't pay us back, MPOWER's out of luck too. So we do it out of the kindness or the compassion value, the mission-driven part. But, if we help students with visas, if we help students with their career, if we give them financial tools to be successful, not only will they pay us back, our students are going to do even greater things than they might have before. Exactly. So there's sort of a help to the world, help to the student, and also as a business, it makes us more sustainable as well. And so for local businesses that don't really care about the outcome of the student, and maybe that's why you have the cosigner collateral restriction. The local players aren't thinking far enough ahead about if they just supported the students or the families more, maybe they'd get a little bit more business in the long term.
Also, like since students who go abroad, they start at the base and they don't know where to start. Like, should I brainstorm what universities I want to go to? Should I start with my SOP first? Should I go with SATs or IELTS class? Since like students are all over the place. So I think MPOWER also, since it helps with right from the beginning, and there's a process where you guide the students, not just like, you're not just a loan provider, but as I mentioned earlier, a partner. So right from the beginning, there's support to the students, they're guided. So I think that's another differentiator that definitely our audiences will also realize between the traditional banks and MPOWER. So that's actually quite interesting that MPOWER is able to do such a huge, like, you know, like favor to the students, because they don't really have to. They're already providing such great opportunities of looking into a student's ambition, their growth, and providing them the loan, but they're also additionally providing them with the resources that they'll need, not just to study, but also like in their careers forward. So I think that's a great initiative that MPOWER has taken for us students. Maybe since I have already completed my master's, maybe had I, like, you know, because I also wanted to go abroad at one point in time, but what I thought was usually loans are taken by students to go abroad. So me and my parents, we both didn't want me to go through the whole hassle of going abroad. So it takes months here. From the application to going abroad, it takes months.
Just for the loan?
For the loan,
and
it takes
apply
around.
To school, or?
For the loan itself, it takes around 2 to 3 weeks, I believe.
Okay.
Because a lot of documents have to be prepared and everything needs to be done. So it's a hassle on its own, the application part, and then going abroad, not knowing what to do. So that, I think the cloud of the unknown, as it's called, that like restricted me. So had I known about MPOWER, maybe I would have given it a shot. But no worries, I think there are a lot of audiences watching who would want to know more about MPOWER and then, you know, proceed on to living their dreams.
Reach more people like you, hopefully.
Oh, yes. So another thing that I wanted to discuss was, usually when we talk about institutions giving out loans, we think students who cannot afford are the ones who take it, right? But as per my understanding by far about MPOWER, it's not just students who cannot afford who can take the loans, but students who want to achieve something can also take the loans because it's flexible. Right?
Very flexible.
Am I right about it?
Yeah, so it is extremely flexible. And so, you know, something that MPOWER looks at that I think I hear visa officers look at and it's more about having a diversity of funds that you can pull from to support your education. So I'll give an example. If you had just a scholarship for your education, if something happened to that scholarship, maybe your GPA gets a little bit too low, you're sort of out of luck with that one source of funding. But if you had a loan, a scholarship, your savings, and your family support, if anything happens to any of those sources of funds, you actually are still fine because you have a lot of different options of funds to pull from. So a lot of our students actually have funds, many don't, but some do, and they just want the security of knowing if they need the money, it's there. They often don't use all of it, and I'll give you maybe a more explicit example to kind of show what I mean. So let's say you're going to a school and you need $25,000 USD for your first semester and $25,000 USD for your second semester. That's just how much it is with tuition and living expenses. So first semester is normal. You go to school, the money goes to the school, et cetera, et cetera. But you get a scholarship between your first and second semester. You get an on-campus job. Maybe mom and dad come into some money and say, hey, by the way, we can help you out a little bit more than we thought. Well, all you have to do is call MPOWER and say, hey, I said I needed $25,000, but I actually only need $5,000. We would reduce the loan size for you, and we would just send $5,000 to the school that semester. That means that extra $20,000, if you never use it, it just disappears at the end of your schooling. You never pay interest on it. And MPOWER, we're different than a local lender. We only have one fee called an origination fee. It is only paid on money that you actually use. Okay. So you never pay any fee on that $20,000 you didn't use. You never pay a dime, it goes away. But what if in your next year you go into some medical issue and you need more money? You can call up MPOWER and say that $20,000 I didn't need, now I need it, and then you can access it. So with MPOWER, if you get a large loan, it's sort of a pool of money you can pull from if you need it. But if you don't need it, you're not charged for it in any way, and it'll disappear. So we like to say we don't penalize a student for their own success. Because if a student comes into more money, we don't want to charge them for it. I believe local lenders around the world and in Nepal charge fees on the entire approved amount called a processing fee.
Yes.
So that means whatever you're approved for, you're sort of stuck paying a surcharge on.
Yes.
We don't do that. Yeah.
That's really nice. Also, since we mentioned like visa officers and the visa thing, if somehow the MPOWER loan doesn't go through, first, why wouldn't it go through? Have there been any instances?
Yeah, and it says, I'm going to sort of answer in two contexts. If you apply for an MPOWER loan and you're not approved, you would never pay money. You paid money at no step along the way. So there's not a fee to apply. There's no processing fee or any fees whatsoever. So if you get through our process, the only time MPOWER is paid is when that money gets sent to your school for your semester. So just to be clear, there's no fee up front in that way. For the visa challenge, we do have students that get denied their visa here and there. And so we've recently launched a program to support students because just like the career services, we've heard that this is just a huge stressor on the student. And it's sort of a doubt that may stop them from actually even trying to study abroad. And so we've partnered with a company known as Udeti, and we do a few different things with this awesome company. The first is we have a free visa webinar that's offered every month. You can go to our website right now on our events page and anyone can sign up today. And once a month, we have a ex-visa officer. They used to be a visa officer. They come teach students how to think about their visa interview. What is the visa officer actually thinking? What are they looking for? And so you're learning how to sort of approach the visa interview, and also it reduces your anxiety. So you're not so anxious going into the interview, which can really, maybe you know the answers, but you go because you're so nervous, right? And that can sort of ruin your chances. So we have this free service for everyone. But if you accept your loan offer with MPOWER, we have a few more benefits actually through Udeti. We have a course that we're offering to students where you can sort of get prep along every kind of module of a visa interview as well as the documentation. So you can figure out how to best approach it. A lot of our students are maybe a little bit more on the nerdy, shy side, and so they kind of like having a little bit of too much research and preparation. And so you can take this course. We also have mock interviews available depending on your profile. You can either get it for free or get it at a super discounted rate. And so realistically, if you're someone that is just extremely nervous about the visa interview, or you already have a rejection and you need to overcome that, we have a lot of tools to sort of help you feel better and also understand how to actually move forward in this. So visa services is something that we've had for the last year. And we've seen a lot of success with students in other markets, and we're excited to bring that to Nepal this year.
Okay. And since, like you mentioned, from the pool itself, for example, if I'm a student who's going through MPOWER, and if I took, let's say, $50,000 loan, suddenly only I need 20,000. 30,000 would be spared. But if I took 50,000 and I go there and I suddenly feel like I need some more loan for something else, maybe accommodation or something. So can I add, like, let's say 10,000, or is it just 50,000 that I'll be getting? So we talked about like the pool itself. 20,000 if I use, 30,000 will be spared. Again, I can say, okay, the 30,000 that was left, can I like have a percentage of it now because I need it now?
Yeah.
But I took 50,000 and I need 10,000 more after reaching the US.
Yeah.
So can I do that as well?
Yeah, so when you get into our process and apply, and let's say you're approved, we'll tell you how much money you're eligible for. So based on your profile, it may be that you're eligible for a whole $100,000. And so in that case, you can come back and ask for an extra 50,000.
Okay.
But for some students, based on their profile, maybe they're going to a less great school, for example, they might only be eligible for a little bit more. So ultimately, it does depend on the profile, but we'll tell you up front what you're eligible for, so you would know. For a lot of students, they're eligible for the entire 100,000. So in your example, let's say you use the entire 50,000 the first semester, you could then ask us for more money to kind of get to that total limit. We do have a lifetime limit as $100,000 USD. So I think in your example, it's a little hard to say because we would have told you up front how much money you're eligible in your first year. And so you would know exactly how much money you could pull from.
So is the eligibility like being counted based on the university I select, or are there other criteria set as well?
Yes, there are several criteria. So it is a no cosigner, no collateral loan. So there are some extra criteria because we can't just give a no collateral loan to everyone.
Exactly.
It doesn't quite work. So some of the things we look for. You have to be going to one of our 500 schools in the United States or Canada. And there are over 6,000 schools in the US and Canada. So MPOWER, why do you only fund so few? What we do is we look at the data that's available. If a school has good outcomes for students, they can get jobs, they pay back the loans, etc., we'll fund those institutions. If we get data showing a school doesn't have good outcomes for students, we won't fund there. So the first criteria is you go into one of the schools where we know students are successful. And if you think about it, we can't fund programs where students can't pay us back. Doesn't help the student, doesn't help MPOWER if they can't get a job. So that's criteria number one. The next one is you need to be going to a program that's 30 months or fewer. So we don't work with bachelor's programs too often. Those students typically don't earn as much in salary, so they can't support necessarily a huge loan size. Our sweet spot are master students who are going for a STEM designated course that's science, technology, engineering, math, or they're going for an MBA. And that's really our sweet spot where we see students get great careers, whether it's in the United States or elsewhere around the world. So that's the second criteria. The third criteria is their profile. What do they want to do with their career? Do you want to be a software engineer? Do you want to be a data analyst? Do you want to be a animator? Whatever it is. So if you want a large loan, you need to be going for a job that also pays well. So if you apply for MPOWER and you realize you're only eligible for a smaller loan size, it's often related to your career choice. So I have a rule of thumb that I got from someone that works in our credit team a while ago. Research your first annual salary. What do you think it'll be? Let's say you think your first annual salary will be a software engineer and you think you're going to get $80,000 and that's what your research shows. You can probably afford an $80,000 loan in total and pay that back over 10 years. However, if you were to get a $100,000 loan, you would not be able to pay that off over 10 years based on your first salary. So if you're trying to figure out how much loan your career path supports, research the first annual salary, what that looks like, and that's probably your loan limit. So I said 3 things. I'm going to repeat them because I went on a little bit of a ramble. So one is you're attending one of our 500 schools that we support in the US and Canada. Second, you're probably attending a STEM master's program or an MBA. And then last, you're attending or intending to go to a great career where it can support the loan size you're looking for. Your future salary does relate to how big a loan you can support. So hope that helps.
Yes. Next question is, what I was curious about is, since MPOWER helps students like in each step of their, like stay in the US as a student, especially when it comes to jobs, does MPOWER help specifically in the job market as well?
We do, and so we don't place students directly, and I want to be clear about that. We don't go get you a job. You need to put the hard work in to get your own job. But we do give you all the tools you need to get a job. And so for a lot of students, the main issue we find is actually networking. That seems to be the big skill gap. And in the US and Canada, it's quite normal for people to talk to strangers and be kind of friendly. I hear in Nepal and other markets, it's less common. You're taught maybe that strangers you shouldn't approach and talk to.
Stranger danger.
Yeah. So in an elevator, if you're standing next to someone in the US, they may just start talking to you, and that's very normal. At my hotel in Nepal, there's actually some Americans there. We just started talking to each other, and that's really, really normal in the US. And so sort of teaching students both that it's okay to talk to people and also how to do it in a way that isn't so transactional. What's the authentic way of building relationships with people? And then over time, if you build really strong relationships with the right people, you'll probably get a job opportunity. That's how most Americans get jobs, actually, through networking. A lot of times just applying online isn't enough. You need to sort of make these connections. And so I always encourage students when they're budgeting for their schooling, consider a little bit more money so you can attend conferences, you can travel to events and meet people in person. So that way you build these relationships and eventually sort of get that dream job you want. But networking is one of the skills we really focus on at MPOWER because it seems to be where international students struggle a little bit more.
I think there's as I mentioned earlier as well, networking isn't our best suit. Even if we are friendly people, like you also mentioned earlier, like people here are very friendly.
Super.
But we're not friendly with strangers. And that's what's required for networking. Like you have to talk to strangers to get to know them and then build trust, build relation. So that's something definitely that students from Nepal have to like learn. So MPOWER does help with that then.
Absolutely. So we have, like I mentioned, we have webinars with different career experts. So we've learned, or I've learned, that having a few different career experts helps because sometimes the way one career expert explains something is different than another. So whichever one your favorite is, you can listen to. But ultimately, we offer a variety of classes for people to learn how to approach networking. And so at least they have a framework going into it. We've also started doing more workshops in each country. In India in particular, we've launched some workshops where we teach students about networking and US culture in advance. So that way, before they arrive, they feel more equipped to do a good job versus sort of learning on the go, and hoping to bring that to Nepal soon as well. So students sort of get that confidence they need to take the plunge to apply to the ESTA study.
I see that a lot of, I don't know if you know this, but as kids, usually like parents usually tell their kids, when you grow up, like, you know, like going abroad, going specifically to the US is something very big. And if you are able to do that, that's something like quite commendable and quite respected in the society as well. But having said that, with the recent news about like America, about the visas and how people are being deported, there's definitely a sense of unfamiliarity. And students are quite hesitant to apply to the US. So what would you like to tell the prospect Nepali students who would want to study but are just hesitant? They want to study in the US but are just hesitant about the whole like news scenario that's going around in the world.
So I have two comments. I'll talk about both. The first is, I mentioned I stay in India half the year. So I see the news from the US that you all get. It's wild. I promise that whatever you see in the news is not fully accurate to the situation. It looks like the U.S. is burning sometimes, and it's. I just left the U.S. It's not. It's normal. I'm walking around. Everything is. It's pretty okay. So I think your news is a bit sensationalized, to be honest, and a lot of it I see isn't quite correct. So first piece of advice is get your news from credible sources. I like to think MPOWER is a credible source, but there are plenty actually out there. Don't get your news from what's popular on TikTok or your favorite influencer necessarily. Do a little bit of your own research. So just wanted to comment that the news that I hear from my own news sources versus what I see on news, wildly different. So I think that's the first comment. The example I'll give about this is that there was recently news from the U.S. about $100,000 being acquired in order to sort of work in the U.S. on an H-1B visa. So What students are thinking is that they'll have to have their employer pay $100,000 to get a job in the United States. No. It is only applicable to students, to workers who are leaving their country directly to work in the US. So if you're an employer in the US that sort of ships students, or as I keep saying students, ships workers to a country just to work, that's where the $100,000 comes in. If you go to the United States on an F1 visa and you just transfer that to an H1B visa, there's no fee. That's a huge misconception. I saw it on Instagram, I saw it on TikTok. Students don't have to pay anything. So huge misconception. Get your news from a credible source. There's nothing stopping you from getting an H1B visa. So the second comment I have is that this has always been the case, but it's more true now. Study abroad isn't for everyone, especially in the United States. If you are looking to migrate and you don't really want to go to school, you don't want to work hard, you're not going for a career, it might not make sense for you. Our students that are ambitious and driven and are there to really get a job and work and do great things are not having a huge trouble with getting a job. But students that are more average, they don't want to study, they're just going to sort of move somewhere else, those students are struggling to get work. And so if you want to put the hard work in to upskill yourself, grow as a person, maybe you have a vision of some company you want to start one day, whatever that is, if you have that career clarity, you'll probably be good. So I think my advice for students is you would know which group you fall into. If you're looking a little bit for an easy ride, study abroad isn't easy. Moving cultures isn't easy. Understanding how to job in a new market has never been easy. But if you know that you're someone that always rises to the challenge and is willing to learn a lot and you're excited by that challenge, it probably is for you. So I encourage students to do a little bit of self-reflection to figure out, am I here to work? Am I here to ride? And so they can figure out, hopefully, which group that they fall into. And the US is still a great place and probably the best place to make a great career out of nothing if you want to.
And since we're talking about self-reflection, usually after bachelor's, so there's this question mark placed on students whether they should continue studying or should they start a job and then continue studying. So master's is something that a very few percentage of the undergrads actually go and pursue because they start working. But then again, there's this perception if you start working, then you get caught up in that. So you don't end up, pursuing your master's or PhD, etc. So what do you suggest? Should students go right to, pursuing their further studies, or should they first get experience in the field and then move towards studying and planning their future out?
Big picture, it depends where you want to end up. And the example I have is if you want to be a research scientist with a PhD, traditionally in the United States, you would go straight through. You would get a bachelor's, you get a master's, then get a PhD. And so if you're sort of on this research path, that may make sense for you. It is less normal in the US to go straight to a professional degree, though. So the average work experience for an MBA between your undergrad and master's is actually 5 years. Most people have quite a bit of work experience before their professional degree or professional master's. So it's way more normal for someone to get some work experience and then go get a master's. And the reason for that is what admissions committees are doing is trying to build a really strong, unique class. And so if you go from an undergrad to a master's, you don't have much experience to offer a class. If you have 2 years of work experience, you suddenly have a great insight into a few things that you can offer the rest of your class. And so having work experience helps you not only be stronger to an admissions committee, it means you're coming actually to the US with skills, and those skills help you get a job in the US later. So the more work experience you have or achievements in your background, the easier it'll be for you to probably get a visa, probably get a loan, and get another job in the United States. And it's mostly because it's skill-based in the US, like I mentioned earlier, not degree-based. And so I encourage students to actually get at least 2 years work experience before coming to the US if they can, purely because then you're a higher value to an admissions committee. You are more secure in yourself, and you'll have an easier time getting a job either in the United States or some other country later on. So I do think there's a little bit of a difference there in between Nepal and sort of what's normal in the United States, where we do expect a little bit of work experience normally if you're going to go work after your master's. And it sounds like in here it's a bit more normal to go straight to a master's if you want one.
Yes, majority of the students usually straight go to masters. But then again, as I mentioned earlier, like there are a part of students who pursue their bachelor's, and then after finishing it, they start working. So they're so caught up in working that they cannot then further go around with the master's program. So that's quite interesting to know that work experience is something that needs to be accumulated before starting master's. So if a student is applying through MPOWER and if they have a certain number of experience, will that be counted as an eligibility as well?
So if you don't have work experience, it doesn't mean MPOWER isn't an option for you. It typically means you might get a lower interest rate with us because you're actually a lower risk to us if you have work experience. If you have work experience, you're more likely to get a job, you're more likely to get through the whole process, you're more likely to be successful. So we give you a lower interest rate because it just makes more sense for us. You're a lower risk.
But there's this also like misconception among students that the experience of Nepal is not like counted well in the US. Is that true?
That is incorrect. So something I found in South Asia, especially when I interview here for people to join my team, is they want to cite, hello, I'm so-and-so and I have 5.5 years of work experience. And I'm like, oh. So it's not the number of years we care about. That doesn't tell me nothing. It tells me nothing about what you can do for me. I care about what have you accomplished for a business. So if you've accomplished great things in 1 year, that is probably better than 5 years of work experience where you have nothing to talk about. So it's more about what skills have you developed. We really focus on skills. In marketing, it's do you have strong communication skills, writing and verbal? Are you decent with data? Can you tell me how your marketing is performing? Those are all skills I look to hire. I don't necessarily care about your responsibilities at your last job. I care about what skills you developed. And marketing is not unique. It's like that in every field in the US. So don't focus, or to the students that may be listening, it's not the number of years of work experience. And actually, it's okay if it's not work experience. If you develop skills on your own that you can speak to, that you didn't get on the job, we count those too. Actually, it's really skill-based. So in the US, sometimes people do internships, they volunteer, they have leadership positions that they don't earn for. We count those skills as long as you can speak to what you learned and how you can apply it for a new business. That can count as experience for us. So ultimately, the quality of the work experience matters more than the quantity of work experience in the US.
Okay. So lastly, like what sort of plans do MPOWER have for the Nepalese students? Like what's the future? What does MPOWER look into, like the students of Nepal and see like, okay, we want to do this now? Like what's the plan of MPOWER?
So we're really excited by Nepal because if you look at study abroad statistics for around the world, I think the 2025 report was just released. Nepal is shooting up. Whoa, there are so many students that are interested in study abroad, and it's increasing year over year. In some markets, it's actually decreasing. And so we can tell that the Nepali students are really excited by the opportunity to study abroad. And so MPOWER can really make a difference here. And because of it, we've decided this year that we should focus on this market over the next 12 to 24 months. And so for us, that means establishing local partners like Straw. Yeah, where we can really sort of give our partners the resources to speak to students directly in the way they're used to being spoken to help them understand the process and make good decisions for themselves. We don't like to push MPOWER on students. We like to give them the information they need to make the right choice for themselves. Sometimes MPOWER makes sense, and sometimes it doesn't. So I think for us, we're just really excited to learn more about this market. we're excited to sort of offer up resources to help students make great choices. And ultimately, we hope that they use MPOWER as their funding choice. And if not, at least we made a difference in the students here. If they want to go with some other partner, we're happy we supported them too.
Yeah. I think the whole concept of MPOWER is relatively new, but I believe after students and parents know more about MPOWER, they will definitely go for MPOWER rather than the traditional banking systems. I think it's a revolution in itself, because here it's so embedded in our minds that traditional banks are the only options students have to go abroad. So something like MPOWER, like, introduction of something like MPOWER in the market is kind of revolutionary, where students can actually, like, not thinking about their parents' money or anything, they can actually dream about living their dream about living their dream. So that's actually quite interesting, and we are very hopeful that MPOWER gets the result it expects from the Nepalese market. And as Straw, we hope to facilitate that, and we hope MPOWER reaches new levels of growth. And with that, I'd like to end this short conversation, not so short, but short conversation of ours. Thank you so much, Claire. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
It was wonderful having you, and it was wonderful talking to you as well.
Thank you so much. We're really excited to help more students. Let's see what we can do.
Thank you. Thanks so much.